say to yourself, I am more than my physical body. Because I am more than physical matter, I can perceive that which is greater than the physical world. I deeply desire to expand, to experience, to know, to understand, to control, to use such greater energies and energy systems as may be beneficial and constructive to me and to those who follow me. I deeply desire the help and cooperation, the assistance, the understanding of those individuals whose wisdom, development, and experience are equal to or greater than my own. I ask their guidance and protection from any influence or any source that might provide me with less than my stated desires.
Do not know all the answers to the questions about reality. Do not claim to know the ultimate truth about fire. I seek that which has been made hidden as a part of a family amongst lords of consciousness. I am the void one.
Welcome to Lighting the Void.
Broadcasting live from a shack on a hill in the Mossy Creek bottoms of Cane Creek, Arkansas. This is Lighting the Void. I'm your host, Joe Roop, and we are live on Fringe.fm, KTLK Digital Broadcasting, YouTube, at TalkStream Live, the Paranormal Radio app, and Live 365. Tonight, we're going to continue our discussion on and about tools that we can use to explore the astral realm. Astral Doorway is the name of the text by J.H. Brennan, and the way we do these things, we do these like with the phones open. For one, the phones are always open. If you want to call in, you can. That should allow you to get through to the show, and then you can chime in if you want. You can also chat in the YouTube chat room if you want to do that as well. Why not, right? So, yeah, I'm pretty interested in this because I like the fact that I know he's going to talk about Tatua cards, which is something that I've used myself to explore consciousness. But he does describe the astral as different, right? The astral realm being different than what we think the astral realm is. What a lot of people say when you say out-of-body experience or I saw myself sleeping, a lot of people think that's the astral realm. And really, it is kind of a part of it, but it's really just your etheric double. At least that's what he's saying, your etheric body. So, with that being said, we're going to jump right into it. Now, before he gets into the methods, I will have you know that you can go to the Fringe FM and you can get your own set of Magic Tatua cards, and I'll show them to you real quick. But if you go to fringe.fm/shop, they're all here. And this is the cards that show, well, let me see if I can pull up these pictures without it doing anything, that kind of show you what they look like. So they have flashing colors, and it comes with an instruction booklet and everything else, right? So we've got a few people that got them already, and then once we get 5 or 6 people that have them, including myself, we're going to do some scrying methods. And I want to thank Honey for these beautiful photographs. I mean, these are great. She took them at the ocean. Good backdrop there, right? Big time. Thank you so much for those. So, yeah, go to fringe.fm/shop to check that out. And you could also donate to the Fringe FM. What's up, Sudi? Michael, thanks for your support, Michael. Dude, you have no idea how much I appreciate it, brother. Thank you. And Something Consult, thanks for showing up, man. It's good to see you. So we're going to jump right into this. And we left off yesterday where the author, was talking about how he was in a dream. So he wasn't in a dream. He brought this family over to his flat called the LVX, and they started having visions. And I'm thinking, this is kind of where he started jumping into understanding what the astral realm is. Okay. So let's get into this vision, right? The vision and the dreams. And he starts it with a quote here. There is no limit set to the range of man's mind except its inability to go beyond a certain point at any given time. And this, as will be seen, is a constantly receding horizon. And that was by W.E. Butler in his book, Magic and Kabbalah. So he goes on to say, the first attempt to use an elemental doorway produced results as unfortunate as the earlier. Nick Van Vliet chose the Earth Square. And the Earth Square is that one I showed you with the purple background and the yellow square. But once he tried the technique, he became ill again. So the guy was using these cards, and then he started becoming ill, right, for some reason. So Bia, I think his wife, also tried using the Earth Square, but although her reaction was not so violent, yeah, my headphones are loud. Let me turn this down. As that of her husband, she was unable to make it work. So the fruitless attempts lasted about half an hour before a fresh approach was tried using the fire triangle. And that fire triangle on the Tattwa cards is the red triangle with, it could be black or white background, but on the flashing cards, it'll have a green, kind of Venus-colored background. So it seemed likely that Nick Van Vliet, a trained visualizer, would make the breakthrough. But it was, in fact, Bia, who suddenly discovered the trick of passing through the doorway. She proved a rare subject, for she found the astral to have reality tones from the outset, and once through the doorway, she retained only a thread of consciousness of her physical surroundings. Yeah, these things kind of happen like dreams. That's why you got to write them down. So my own feeling is there was at least a degree of trance involved. Not wanting to risk breaking her vision, I made no tests, but her body seemed totally relaxed and her breathing was noticeably deepened. Two signs which frequently occur with trance. She told us of her trip as she experienced it, speaking slowly and carefully, and afterwards she wrote the account given below. And this is her quotes. The guide who approached me and returned my greeting with his hands together in front of his body was rather young, with black, wavy, shoulder-length hair, wearing a white tunic held by a gold belt, bare feet and sandals with gold straps around his calves. We went together along a short path and approached a gently sloping hill. Remember, she's seeing all this stuff as she scried through the, I think it was the fire triangle. We went up and we came to the top, and I could see a very large lake, the water of which looked a beautiful deep blue. We went down the hill towards the lake, and as we're both panting slightly, my guide beckoned me to sit down beside him. We got up a few minutes and continued our way to the right, along the lake, and after some time, we came to a grotto, and my guide wanted me to enter it. I was afraid because I felt there was something utterly wrong. Something was utterly wrong. Even watching her, we could see this. Bia's breathing started to quicken. Her muscles tensed, and she began to move around uneasily in her chair. Had she been a more experienced astral traveler, it might have been interesting to leave her alone and see what happened. But it was her first trip. I decided she had better come out. In view of her trance-like state, the method I used was suggestion. First, I asked her to breathe deeply and relax, and then I told her I would join her on the astral plane and lead her back to the doorway. She responded quickly to the suggestion and calmed down. So she just started tripping out. When she got in there, she met this guide which he brought up a good fact. Like if you see a vision or something doing this stuff, you're supposed to test it. And she didn't test it. And then she started feeling like something was wrong. Right. So, I mean, I guess he got her out of there. Next, I described in detail how I was passing through the doorway and walking down the same path she had taken. I followed the route of her journey and eventually told her she could now see me, and she confirmed that this was so. From that point, it was simply a questioning of leading her verbally back to the doorway. When she passed through, she opened her eyes, no worse for the experience. She had, she explained, become convinced that if she entered the grotto, her guide would desert her. Bea von Vliet was unusual in her degree of penetration into the astral plane on a first trip. So this was her first time doing it, which that's pretty insane to have something that intense. But you know what? Actually, I don't think that's that insane, because the first time I practiced magic, or the first time that I tried to get out of body, most of the experiences that I had were pretty intense, actually. So Bea von Vliet, this was her first time. But some individuals are prone to a trance experience from the first. And what happened to Bea underlines my warning that astral journeys are not to be taken lightly, and they can be dangerous. Certainly they should not be undertaken if you are alone, at least until you know what you are doing. Her breakthrough seemed to open the way for her husband. Using the fire triangle, Nick now found he could project through the doorway. Well, yeah, I bet, since it's become a competition, right? Well, if she can do it, I can do it. So there was a difference of degree between his experience and that of his wife. Although the visions were vivid, as might be expected, he was always fully conscious. Yeah, but he got sick before. That's the weird thing. But he was always fully conscious of the physical world. Like Bea, he wrote out an account of his trip. The guide who approached me and returned my greeting with his hands together in front of his body was rather young. He was dressed in a short white tunica held by a brown belt and wore sandals. His hair was short and dark blonde. You notice how they're kind of seeing the same things, but they're saying that they're seeing the details a little differently. After greeting me, he beckoned me to follow him and went along a winding path lined on both sides with young, birches? And the atmosphere was very spring-like. The guide looked around several times as if he was trying to make sure I was still following. After a while, the path led into a dark forest, which we passed through very quickly. It opened out suddenly onto a gentle sloping hill, with on top of the hill a small white temple, the front of which was dominated by a big rectangular blue door. And when the door opened, the guide led me into the only hall the temple seemed to consist of. Right in the middle of the hall was a big rectangular black, marble or highly polished granite pedestal with a dog figure strongly resembling the Egyptian Anubis. The guide went ahead of me, and when the Anubis figure was in line between us, he turned around, raised both his arms, and looked at me. Then he pointed at something on the right-hand corner of the back wall. When I came closer, I could distinguish a large blue panel with hieroglyphs in relief. Trying to read the long rows of characters, I could only make out the first three of the top line. When I asked my guide, he's got a little notation here. He says, a lapse in memory. Immediately after the trip, he drew four of the characters. They were line outlines and looked a little like the letters S, U, or O, L, and C. When I asked my guide for the meaning of this, he replied, this is the light. And after this, he led me back the same way he had come. So first off, you have to ask yourself, did these guys, well, one of them's claiming that he can, he's a visionary, like he's clairvoyant, that he can see things. So he's making those claims. But when he tried to use the tatua cards to scry with, he started getting sick. This is just me evaluating stuff, okay? Then his wife, who isn't a visionary or whatever, doesn't claim to be anything. And of course, I think a lot of this stuff happens to the feminine nature easier. She gets in there and immediately has like this deep vision. And of course, as a woman, she starts feeling things, right? So she feels something's not right. and it freaked her out. So this guy's watching her, and he's like, man, I could see her breathing speeding up. I know she didn't test the entity when she started messing around in the astral realm, which is something you're supposed to do. And then he, I guess, voice guided her out. And now all of a sudden, because his wife could do it, he steps in and he could do it. But they're seeing kind of different stuff. So the questions here you have to ask is, which I take nobody's word for anything when it comes to this stuff, and I don't think you should either. However, you should try this, because I've tried it for myself and it works. But you do have to do, you have to train yourself to be able to focus magically, like mystically, focus on things and visualize things. So let's get back into the book. So Nick Van Vliet's second astral trip also took him to a hilltop temple. Again, the outline is given in his own words. This time, my guide was older, middle-aged, and had dark skin and almost black eyes of a Middle Eastern race. He was dressed in a long burnous-type garment, stripped lengthwise in red, blue, and white. Again, he greeted me with both hands together in front of his body and gestured me to follow him. And this time, the landscape was desert ochre, sometimes deepening to orange. Sandy hills, first rather close together, then after turning to the right, they started to widen. See how detailed he's being, though? Again, a temple on top of the hill, but with an entrance smaller and less significant looking. This time we did not enter a hall, but first had to pass through a long and rather dark corridor. It opened into a big rectangular hall, still rather dark, but splendidly decorated with very modern-looking structures in gold, covering the walls and ceilings. The shapes of these structures reminded me very much of the metal sculptures of Navangabo. We passed through this hall without stopping into another corridor, and after a while I began to notice a strong glow of intense blue color ahead of me. Although still faint at first, there was an intensity about it, mainly because of the type of blue. When we entered the next hall, I noticed that the blue glow came from behind a black rectangular altar that was positioned almost against the back of the wall in the center of it, and it was flanked by two enormous bird-like figures with outstretched wings and heads like horses. You know what some people are saying, right? As soon as this, like they're getting into this, some people are probably, this is all devil stuff. These figures seem to be made of pure gold. When we approached the altar, the blue light disappeared, and I could see an old man dressed in a black robe standing behind it. My guide stayed behind me, slightly to the left. The old man's mouth was moving, as if he was talking, but I couldn't hear a sound. Yeah, that's creepy. I don't like that. I moved even closer, but I still couldn't hear him. His left arm was raised, and he was pointing upwards, although for some reason I did not look at what he might have been showing me. I was constantly trying to focus on his face, but it kept changing so rapidly, almost frantically, that he seemed to have 100 faces at the same time. His movement of talking became more frantic also, and I had to give up. That sounds more like an acid trip, don't it? I asked my guide to bring me back, and he did, without further incidents, along the same way we had come. The fire symbolism is much more apparent in this vision than in the previous ones. Afterwards, Nick made some rough sketches of the altar and the winged figures. You guys want to see what he drew? Let's see. This is what he drew. That's what he saw in his Tattwa vision, right? That's weird looking though. It doesn't really ring a bell to me. It doesn't correspond with anything, except maybe the bottom one. Among other points of interest in this fact, judging from the sketch, the winged figure looks like the Egyptian Ku, or astral body. The Middle Eastern associates of the guide may have some bearing here. In theory, this vision concluded the first set of experiments. In practice, there was a curious sequel. The night, in a vivid sleeping dream, Bia retraced her astral journey. The most intriguing thing about this dream was that in it, she used the astral doorway. So after she did the scrying method, now she's having dreams about using scrying cards, which is crazy. When she went through, she met a new guide, a quiet old man dressed in a faded gray monk's habit. Together they went down by the same lake and eventually approached the grotto. The guide beckoned Bia to follow him, and this time she went in. Now she takes up the story in her own words. So let's hear what her story is. And I'm sure he's going to tell us how to do all this stuff probably very soon, right? Oh, man, my eyes are bloodshot. Sorry. I've been staying up playing Destiny before the new launch. Brain rot, man. Inside this, we're going into her vision. So inside it was very dark. My guide walked a few steps in front of me, and he went along what seemed to me an endless, narrow, winding path until we reached a junction. My guide suddenly turned to face me and shrugged slightly as if to tell me that the decision to go to the left or to the right was all mine. And without hesitating, I chose the right-hand path. And again, we went along a narrow, winding path until we came to a tunnel. Here the path widened and led into a large vault. In the middle stood a black, highly polished pedestal. This was empty. And my guide walked around it 3 times, and I did the same. That's weird. It's almost like he's circumambulating or something. Yeah, the figure, when I saw that figure, it looked Sumerian to me, too. I didn't really get the Egyptian astral body from it at all, but, I mean, he drew it. Anyways, so we continued along a short, narrow path and reached a second vault. In the middle of it stood the statue of a very beautiful middle-aged man. Although this was not on a pedestal, I knew at once that in fact it belonged to the pedestal that I saw in the first vault. I was very impressed by the beauty of the statue and stepped forward to have a closer look at it. As I did so, very suddenly the statue slowly turned its head to the left. That's another creepy thing. At the moment, an immense sadness came over me. I asked my guide to bring me back, and he did so. We went the same way we had come. The experience made a strong impression on Bia. The continuity between dreams and visions was obvious. She decided the reason for her sadness in the dream was that she had taken the wrong turn. She was determined to try the other one. At the first possible opportunity, she used the fire doorway to re-enter the astral. It should be obvious by now that the symbol was the key to a very specific level of Bia's mind. She found herself in the same surroundings and was met by the guide of her dream. They walked to the grotto, and this time she chose the left-hand path. And my guide led me along a winding path, she says, and suddenly I saw a faint green glow. My guide now moved with his back against the wall. Impulsively, I did the same, although I was wondering why my guide behaved so strangely. Suddenly I understood. The green glow fell partly over the path, and moving the way he did, my guide was out of its reach. Then I got a great shock. On the right side of the path, I saw the thing that radiated this poisonous, evil green glow. It was a monster, nearly human, starved and caged, and in the center of its head there was a huge eye, and this was the source of the green glow. My guide led me very quickly past this monster, and we went along the path until we reached a huge vault. Along the walls there were 9 statues on black, highly polished pedestals. Ooh, that number 9 is probably pretty significant. I would make sure to take note of that. They were all very beautifully young, naked men. I wonder if her husband's getting jealous because she keeps looking at these statues and talking about how beautiful they are. I would be like, man, what's up, man? You like those statues or what? They looked very rodent-like. And after a quick look around, we went on and nearly immediately came to a second vault. And here the path stopped, and against the back wall of the vault there raised very impressively and frighteningly a huge fire column. To my disappointment, the 9 pedestals here present were empty, and on each one there was a small pile of ash. My guide turned at once and hurried me back the same way we had come. Today, That's the end of the vision. Today, Bea Van Vliet has abandoned all occult work. She found it way too fascinating and feared it might take a grip on her attention to the exclusion of everything else. She fancied she had an aptitude for psychism, and I agree. And certainly these first few astral experiments triggered something. She dreamed again. Not a trip this time, and not even anything very spectacular. She had lost a compact and subsequently found it in the garden. It was an odd compact. It was triangular and green. And then a recurring dream began, the first recurring dream she ever had. It played back for 3 consecutive nights, vividly. She was driving an old open car along a quiet country road, and it broke down. And after trying to fix it and trying to push it, she decided to get help. She could not find help and was walking back towards the car when a young, strong black elephant came charging towards her. It was a beautiful animal, and she admired it without fear as it went past. Then out of the blue, a disembodied voice said, "Well, you see, there is still some wildlife here." That's such a weird dream. In Hindu mythology, the elephant Ganesha supports the world from the back of a turtle. Occultists maintain that the physical world is supported by the astral plane. The number 9 in her vision of the statues is the Cabalistic number of Yesod, the sphere of the astral realm. And there were a number of other symbols in these and later visions that would be recognized by any occultist. Yeah, I wonder why she, so she had like she must have had a real intense experience, right? Like, so if she had a couple of occult experiences using tattoo cards, and then like after that, she's like, I'm done with the occult. I'm done. Or magic or the esoteric or whatever. It must have really freaked her out. All this sounds very mysterious, but isn't. It simply points to the archetypal nature of symbolism or occult symbolism. But the astral plane is not simply symbol juggling. I gave these visions and dreams to show what you can expect from reasonably straightforward trips. Later you will find out what can happen when the trips are not straightforward. Meanwhile, you can learn about some other doors. So guess what? Once you learn how to scry properly yourself through these tattoo cards, then you start to learn to scry with all kinds of things, right? So you can use tarot cards. You can use crystals. I think he's going to talk about tarot cards next, though. The tarot doorways. So these cards, originally made of metal or strong leather, were later used as means of gambling, just as the Egyptian priests intended them. For they knew that the human race will never die, and so their mysterious cards were unknowingly used by the barbarians as a means of transmission through subsequent ages of the most sacred and hidden results attained by the old wisdom of Egypt, Moni Sadu, or the tarot. A tarot deck is composed of 78 cards. 56 of these are divided into suits, wands, cups, swords, and pentacles, equating with the familiar diamonds, hearts, spades, and clubs. The remaining 22 are the tarot trumps, a curious collection of symbolic pictures. There is a game of tarot, but I have never seen it played, and the last person I met who owned a tarot deck was learning to tell fortunes with it. You could tell this is definitely from the 70s because nowadays everybody does, like everybody's doing tarot. She was following a long tradition among Romanis, real and fairground. The tarot has an excellent reputation as a fortune-telling deck. Each suit is numbered ace to 10, but there are 4 court cards rather than 3 found in an ordinary pack. These 4 are the valet, the knight, the queen, and the king. Each card has a series of traditional associations, which usually change when the card is reversed. The 4 of swords, for instance, means solitude, retreat, or abandonment when taken right way up. But reversed, it means economy, precaution, or regulation of expenditure. Does it now? The consideration applies only to the minor arcana. The major arcana, as the trumps are called, have the same meaning whichever way they are dealt. That's only true if you say so, though. You realize that, right? Fascinating, though, the subject is, I would be stepping out of line if I started to go into fortune-telling detail here. But it may have some bearing on the subject of astral operations to mention that one reason why the tarot has proved so popular in this field is that the trumps, by nature of their symbolic value, can have a very stimulating effect on the intuition. Only the trumps are used as astral doorways. Unfortunately, there is controversy about how these trumps should look. If Sadhu's thesis is correct, the priests of ancient Egypt presumably knew the answer. But in the years since then, design details have been modified to produce a variety of tarot packs. This sort of situation is probably to be expected. It's complicated further by the attempts of modern occultists to restore the accurate and ancient symbolism. The designs in Muni Sadhu's book were made presumably to his instructions by Mrs. E.G. Lucas of Melbourne. Aleister Crowley, I have the Crowley deck right here. See? They put the, well, I don't know what this looks like on the video here, but these are some of my favorite cards to scry with, actually. Yeah, it don't look bad on here. So, a lot of, I don't know if some of you knew that you could scry with tarot cards, but you can. Hopefully he'll get into that. If he doesn't, I'll tell you about it. Okay. So Aleister Crowley had Lady Harris design his variations on the theme. A.E. Waite produced another pack in association with the publishing house of Ryder & Co. Yeah, I think I've had this Ryder Waite deck for God knows how long. I got to get a new deck because I've cleaned this. Look how dirty the sides are. I've cleaned the sides so many times. But I think when you start learning about the tarot Cabalistically, it gets confusing because of the court cards, mainly. Because the Rider-Waite deck uses a page and a knight that correspond with Tifereth and the sun, and then the king and queen, where Crowley uses a knight, a queen, a prince, and a princess. The Golden Dawn decks, if you have one, are the ones that actually have a king, a queen, a knight, and a princess, which corresponds better, if you ask me. It makes more sense. But these are my favorite cards to scry with, is the Crowley ones, because they're so beautiful. I mean, look at these cards, the artwork on them. It's really cool. Anyways, there are several different packs on sale even today. My own came from the Metaphysical Research Group at Archer's Court, Hastings. Their medieval ugliness appalls my heart, but their symbolism must be reasonably accurate because they work. And then he goes through all the cards here. We don't have to do all that. Let me skip over. All right, so the next thing would be the Cabalistic doorways. I'll tell you real quick though, like using a card to scry with I don't recommend jumping right into scrying with tarot cards because that's kind of advanced. I think you should use the Tattva cards. You should use the elements, the symbol of the elements first, and really get good at scrying and then start using the tarot. But this is why I tell you why I like the Crowley cards, because they Kabbalistically correspond better. Like if you see the 6 of discs here, right? So I don't know if you watched my video on explaining the Kabbalistic tarot, but the disc is the rose here in the middle, and actually the 6, or you could say the prince too, especially, but it corresponds also with all of the energies, all of the Sephiroth that are around it, right? So there's Doth right there, and here's Yesod, and then you got Netzach and Hod, and then you got a Severity and Mercy. I can't think off the top of my head, but Chesed and Gebura. So that's Doth, Yesod, Netzach and Hod, Chesed and Gabora, and there's the sun right there where the rose is. So not only did Crowley show you stuff Kabbalistically, he put the planetary sigils in each one of the Sephiroth too, so you can understand it better. And then they also, actually Crowley didn't do this, Lady Harris did, but then she also put the colors in here. And if you can see at the very top, there looks like a little symbol of the moon, right? So be the moon and Taurus. He really hid them, but you could see it. I don't know if you could see it. See it? And then there's Taurus there. So colors and symbolism are big. And I think it's really cool that occultists were smart enough, and I think Arthur Edward Waite was too, to have a woman help them design the art, because you're using the masculine and feminine there to create. So Crowley would tell Lady Harris, okay, this is all the stuff I want in the full card. This is like the symbolism, everything that I want in the full card, and I want these colors and all this stuff in it. And then she would make it, right? You can't see the green in it because of the green screen, but she did a really good job with these, in my opinion. These old devil cards. So anyways, yes, you can scry and astral travel through tarot cards too. That's kind of more advanced stuff than the basic elements of the Tattva, but it's still a cool notion. All right, so the Kabbalistic doorway is next. He's going to get into that. Probably need to go to the chat and see what's up. What's up, Dale? All living things had a ka. A ba is most often translated as soul and was a human-headed bird aspect which could speed between earth and the heavens. Yeah. You have Awakening with the K. Marie. Do you have Robert Wang's Golden Dawn deck or Chick Cicero's? Have you ever tried Sandra and Chick Cicero's correspondences with the tarot and the Shem HaMephoresh? Yeah. I think they're all good. I think all of the Golden Dawn teachers are good. I have David Griffin's Ritual Magic Manual, which is like a must for me. I have all of Chick Cicero's books. I have Liam Thomas Christopher's books. I think anything by Regardi, Cicero, Tabitha and Chick, also anything by David Griffin, Leslie McQuaid, and a couple other people, Pat Zawalski. They're some pretty good teachers. Yeah, the Robert Wang deck, that's the good one. It's very simple, the Wang deck, but it explains the correspondence is so good, actually. I love that deck. All right, so the Kabbalistic doorways. The Kabbalist goes to work in a different way. He does not attempt to make the mind rise up on the wings of metaphysics into the rarefied air of abstract reality. He formulates a concrete symbol that the eye can see and lets it represent the abstract reality no untrained human mind can grasp. That was by Dion Fortune and the Mystical Kabbalah. Another one of my favorite texts I recommend you read if you're into this stuff. So the concrete symbol Dion Fortune mentions is the Tree of Life. And since the turn of the century, this glyph has formed the cornerstone of Western occultism. It was developed out of a set of Hebrew mystical doctrines which over the centuries have seduced better minds than yours or mine. A magico-philosophical system, the Kabbalah is vast, complex, and thanks to the efforts of modern occultists, continually growing. A man could spend his life in its study and may have. I have spent a long time studying it, and it's still fascinating to me. In practical application, part of its broad scope takes in the astral plane. To reach the astral plane, a Kabbalist will use the tarot trumps, but in a special way. His discipline ensures he will be on a familiar ground when he passes through them. He will know before he starts each trip how far he wants to go, and he will know when he gets there. His visions are the subject of a tight control, and each one is undertaken for a specific purpose. Understanding any of this requires a grasp of basic principles. To present these fully would take more time and energy than I have available. but the following outline might get as far as the doorways. So I guess I'll show you this, but I'm sure you all know what it looks like. The tree of life right here, right? So you got the 10 Sephiroth and the 22 paths. He doesn't really show the hidden sphere of Doth, but that's okay. So, as Dion Fortune says, this is a concrete symbol representing abstract realities. It represents states and forces and the relationships between them. It is a wiring diagram of the cosmos and the mind of man. Kabbalists accept the Hermetic axiom, as above, so below. The bedrock structure of the universe thus becomes identical to the bedrock structure of the soul. Can y'all see that? I hope so. Because I lost my damn spot every time I read and I go back. Across the vast parallel to forces. Okay. The forces that play across the vast reaches of interstellar space are parallel to the forces which play within the psyche. Over the years, various associations have been linked with the Sephiroth, Kether, this one here at the top. For instance, the topmost sphere of pure primordial being is associated with light, unity, Parabrahma, and the Samsara chakra. Malkuth, at the other end of the scale, which is right here, down here, is associated with matter, the planet Earth, inertia, and the four elements. Well, technically, the four elements are all throughout the tree, but I have a video on that if you want to watch it. Any student taking his first steps in Kabbalism learns the major associations and will usually have lists of the minor ones with easy reach. But if his interest is more than academic, he does not stop there. He adds his personal associations. There's nothing known or unknown which cannot be pigeonholed into one or other of the 10 spheres. Yeah, it is kind of funny how the tree of life corresponds with everything, you know. This personal pigeonholing brings the tree of alive. It gives the student at least some grasp of the reality behind the diagram. And since the tree is archetypal, the Sephirotic forces are pre-existent in the depths of the psyche. Painstaking meditations, often carried out over a number of years, forge association links of images and ideas which eventually reach down to this bedrock level. And eventually, by triggering the proper switch, the student can make contact with the force of any given Sephiroth. Hence, he draws his power. As a practical convenience, the Sephiroth are often held to represent objective forces with psychic parallels, while the paths are taken to be subjective states. For present purposes, you can look on this later as we mark the areas of the astral plane. Yeah. So in the pathworking, like when you do Kabbalistic pathworkings, there's actually 32 paths of wisdom, which, if you're a conspiracy person, yes, they correspond with the 32 Masonic degrees, but it's all of the Western mysteries, you know. So the first 10 are the first 10 paths, right? So these are they consider them paths. And then you have the other 22. But basically what he's saying is, say you're going to take one path from one Sephiroth to the next. And remember, this is all done in the astral, in your mind's eye, understanding the symbolism of these things. If you have a path working guide that's taking you on a journey as you go through this path, it's going to have both of these energies in them that correspond with it, amongst, other energies that are connected. And there's always a tarot card that corresponds with each path. So what I'm saying is, if you do path working on the tree of life, you'll start to learn the deeper stories and the deeper mystery of that card and that path and that Hebrew letter and what it means, right? And how it corresponds with you and your life uniquely as well, so to speak. There are excellent reasons for accepting the theory, but this is not the place to go into them. Okay. Hope I'm not throwing too much junk at you guys. Because it is a complex system, don't get me wrong. You missed the book. The book is called, it's an old book from the 70s. which some of the best books and movies are from the 70s and 80s, if you ask me. It's called Astral Doorways by J.H. Brennan. J.H. Brennan. Okay. So life is a school, and we incarnate to learn. I don't know if I agree with that. But once all the lessons are learnt, he put learnt here, we cease to incarnate. We have over a series of lifetimes evolved to the state of union with God. We have been absorbed into Kether. We have reached nirvana. The learning process is rigidly controlled by the law of karma. What we sow, we reap, no more and no less. You think people would actually believe in that? Like, I don't understand. Like, if you really do your spiritual work, you'll start to learn that karma is real. Like, it's real. It's a real thing, just as real as air, you know. And you think people would learn that, so they would learn how to treat people better. Stop all this, pardon my French, but being lying, deceiving little fuck bags. And it's not about, you know, who they're hurting. Like, you're going to cause your own suffering in the next life from that. Or whatever. I mean, you can't, that's a whole other subject, but the learning process is controlled. So the occultist, actually, let me start here. What we sow, we reap. Normally, hard knocks forces us upwards, as pain forces a child to respect fire. But this way is slow, and the occultist is impatient. He wants to reach nirvana quickly, and to do so, he makes use of a little-known fact. The fact is this: karmic terms or physical consequences do not matter. It is our reaction to them that counts. And since all levels are real after their own fashion, the Kabbalist attempts to abreact as much of his karma as he can on the astral plane. It's easier to shape than the physical world, and on it, within limits, he can choose the initiations he wishes to undertake. And with training, the astral images have just as much potency as any physical experience. I will say this too, like, if this is hard for you to grasp, like, you're into the esoteric and you're into the occult and stuff, but using the mind or the magical eye, that's what I call it, in the audio, those audio downloads I have at the store, I would look into, before you get into this, I would look into Carl Jung's methods of active imagination. And if you want to get into that deeper, Gordon White over at Rune Soup has, I took his a long time ago, but he has kind of like an astral course, but he uses the methods by Carl Jung. And you can use these methods and work through your karma without having to experience it here in the world. You can do your shadow work in that world, which it's all the astral world, honestly. Okay. It's easier to shape than the physical world. The Kabbalist is at heart a ritualist. He approaches the doorways in the manner of a ceremonial magician. And sometimes he will go so far as to build a physical environment that makes the job easier. In his temple or his lodge, he will set up the symbols as a focus for his mind. Get out of here. Of course, I'm doing a show. But ultimately, this is not necessary. The important temple is built up by will and imagination on the astral plane. And remember, Manly P. Hall says that too. So I have a temple, like right here is where my radio studio is. My temple is right over here, like on the other side of this wall. But if you really, I have a tree of life on the wall. I built 2 pillars out. I have my altar box that I made in the center, and I have symbols, incense burners. I have a whole Golden Dawn temple right over here. But like Manly P. Hall says, I know that it's everything that I'm looking at and taking into my conscious senses is just an exoteric symbol of what's really going on in the astral realm, which, if we study the occult enough, we realize that the astral realm is just as real, like he said, as the physical world. It's just the blueprints for the vibrations to come into a denser reality here, you know. What's up, Starseed? What are you saying? Most people don't live by their words. Behavior is everything. Yeah, I had to learn that too, man. Like, we all make mistakes. Sometimes we say stuff we don't follow through with, but I have went through people that are so charming, man, that they'll convince you. Yeah, and you'll just believe and I'm not naive as people think, right? But it just sucks, man. People hurt people. And, you know, they do it for their own reasons. But later, what sucks about it is you like forget, right? When you're born again into another life, you forget the previous one. So you can't really take it with you and be like, oh, I learned this lesson. Now you have to experience what you did to those people, you know, and the suffering that it causes, which isn't that cool, right? So we can work through all of our own astral junk and our own karmic junk by studying the occult. And this is the stuff that I like, because every time I talk to this about people or on other shows or people that kind of understand, you know, ceremonial magic or the occult or the Kabbalah or whatever, it really focuses on more of, well, what's it going to do for me in the real world? And I'm thinking in my mind, when people say that, I'm like, everything. Like everything. So if you understand what I'm saying, at 42 years old, I would take my advice and don't waste your time trying to teach lessons to people. Just love them, and then if you have to let them go, this is the hardest lesson I've ever learned. Lovingly let them go, because there's karma for that if you don't. Trust me. And move on. You know, eventually you will vibrate with somebody that's on your level. Okay? And I'm talking about friends, partners, everything. Everything. All right, we got to take a station break. We'll continue this reading here. We're talking about astral doorways, mainly using the Tattwa cards, but he's going into the tarot cards, a little bit more advanced stuff. He's going into the Kabbalah, using that stuff, talking about pathworking. But hopefully, by the end of the night, we'll get into some methods here. If you want to get your own set of physical Tattwa cards, let's say you don't want to make your own, but you want some, I have some for sale at the fringe.fm. It comes with an instruction booklet, and it's pretty cool. Go check that out at fringe.fm/shop. And we'll be right back.
This station recognizes our obligation to broadcast meaningful opposing viewpoints by responsible individuals of similar inclination and recognizable differences. Right.
Bumper stickers are a fun side hustle with low-cost investment that has built-in advertising to attract local customers in parking lots, rallies, gatherings, conventions, venues, and more. You could potentially sell these bumper stickers on consignment to local businesses, tattoo parlors, head shops, or any other independently owned store that might gear toward the fringe. Bumper stickers are great gift-giving ideas for friends and family. Also, a way to wake up your fellow travelers on the path without having to waste energy in tiresome debates. No car? No problem. Bumper stickers will stick to just about about anything with a semi-smooth surface. Go to www.justbsme.com and get your bumper stickers today.
Hey, this is country music singer and void walker Jason Benoit, and when I need my fix on the world of magic and the capabilities of the human consciousness, I listen to Joe Roop right here on Lighting the Void Radio.
Hey, this is No Way Jose, a Northern California Piscean stuck in the Arizona desert. I'm a void walker, and I got the shoes to prove it. So what do I do when my soul yearns to delve deep into the realm of the unknown? I aim my satellite straight into the night sky and catch a smooth ride on the KTLKDB radio waves. I tune into Lighting the Void with Joe Roop on the French FM.
Joe, Lighting the Void is the best show on the planet. This is Barney, your friend from Facebook. Thank you and all the crew for all you do. Namaste, my friend.
This is Macon from the foothills of North Carolina, and I am a void walker.
G'day, void walkers. This is Lily from down under Australia. The world may be small, the enigma is greater. So let your curiosity take you for a journey with Joe Roop.
Hey, this is Fee, coming in from Central Maryland, and I am a void walker.
This is Kevin Doherty, a beginner void walker. I'm from Vancouver, BC. I know a little about a lot, and as Leonard Skinner said, I guess the rest. I learned a lot from Mr. Roop in the show, and heard it from the beginning. I knew right then he was going to be a new bell. Thanks for all your shows, and keep it up.
Hey, this is Derek from Mass, aka the Night Stalker, and I'm a void walker.
This is Mark from Chicago, and I walk the void to ascertain what is consciousness.
My name is Jared Johnson, and I'm from Humboldt County, California. I do not know all the answers to the questions about reality. I do not claim to know the ultimate truth about life. I seek that which has been made hidden as a part of a family of explorers of consciousness. I'm a void walker. Thanks, Joe Roop.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7 with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Wake up and text. Text and eat. Text and catch the bus. Text and miss your stop.
Well.
Wait. Text and be late to work. Sorry, I'm late. Text and work. Text and pretend to work. Text and act surprised when someone calls you out for not working.
Who, me?
Text and meet up with a friend you haven't seen in forever.
Hi. Oh, hey.
Text and complain that they're on their phone the whole time. Text and listen to them complain that you're on your phone the whole time. Text and whatever. But when you get behind the wheel, give your phone to a passenger. Put it in the glove box. Just don't text and drive. Visit StopTextsStopWrecks.org. A public service announcement brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Is that a faucet running?
That's not a faucet. That's a river rushing through the forest.
Brutal.
Forest rivers provide over 100 million people with clean water to drink.
What? I can't hear you because of the vacuum.
That's not a vacuum. That's the trees in the forest cleaning up the air we breathe.
I didn't know the trees were so amazing.
Yep, and the forest gives us shade, trees to climb.
That's awesome. Let's go explore some more.
Visit the forest today and enjoy all it does, just for you. To learn more about the forest and find your worlds.
Recipes aligning with the radio.
All right, welcome back to Lighting the Void Radio. Those commercials are brutal, aren't they? So one day we'll get back to where we was, where we have that level of support, and we can cut out Well, at least we can cut out like the PAs and the other ads and just have like the really, really short break. But I appreciate you guys hanging through. So here's the thing. If you guys want to get into scrying, I'm about to drop this in the Patreon shop and the Fringe FM shop. Hopefully, if I can get my punk ass off of Destiny, long enough, I'll get it done. The thing is like, I'm going to have to do a whole show on this one day, or like stream it so you guys can understand why I'm hooked on it. It's almost like being in a magic temple playing that game. But I wanted to explain this to you before we get back into reading, so people can understand a little bit more about ceremonial magic as a whole, as how it works. So if you didn't know anything about it and you walked into a Golden Dawn temple, you would think, oh man, this temple is colorful. It's got all these symbols. I know what some of them mean or whatever, but there's a reason why when you go into the temple that it's so colorful. The reason why the Golden Dawn used colors like this was to activate the senses, because those colors correspond unconsciously to certain things and vibrations. Color is not just color. It's actual energy and vibration. And you have to look at it that way, because it is. But all of these exoteric symbols you're messing with, so to speak, magically messing with. But when you actually do the ritual, you start to use your astral mind, right? So when you visualize, like I was talking about yesterday, the circles that you draw or the geometrical shapes that you draw, you're blending the astral world with the physical world. So you're in this temple constantly circumambulating, right? Making cymatic patterns into your reality. Let's look at it that way. And you're circumambulating, vibrating with your voice, focusing with your mind, and bringing the astral down into the physical. So it's very, very powerful when you do this stuff. So if you're thinking about, well, I'm going to go in this temple, and every day that you do it makes it even more and more powerful. It builds up the egregoric energy in your life, right? So every day that you do this, you have to start being wise about what you're invoking or evoking. Not just, oh, I need money and sex and a car. Like, it'll bring that stuff to you. But we're talking about a realm that's connected to your karma, your psyche, everybody else's karma, your ancestors, like everything. This thing is deep, right? So it would be better if you go into this temple and you get past the neophyte stuff and you start invoking things to say, teach me patience, manifest patience into my life. If you want things in your life, use the earth element and manifest abundance. There are times I think it's good to be specific, okay? If you're using residual magic, things like that, and you want to be specific. But specificity can be dangerous for the one reason, and I don't think people talk about this enough. Because if you've created enough power in your temple, and you're having this connection with the Creator and God and all this stuff, and you're manifesting the will, okay? You're creating a vibration, and it has to manifest into the world in natural law. So if you want, like, I don't know, emergency money or a specific person that you can't stop obsessing over or something like that, it's going to have to go against either natural law, which it won't do, or cause certain things to happen for you to have these opportunities, which can be dangerous. Not just dangerous for the other person, which you should take into consideration, but also dangerous for you, your karma, the next life you're going to live, your children, things like that. So the deeper you get into Hermetics, the more you understand how true it is, the wiser you become. You have to be careful with this stuff. So the safest thing that you can do always is not involve other people with your work. I made that mistake. I brought people into my temple and circle and all kinds of stuff. Bad mistake. Won't do it again. Secondly, like, work on yourself. Ask the creator to build your character and help you go through this karma, right? That's what you really need to do, because once the wisdom comes into your heart and the love comes in, all this other stuff that you're fixated on, you know, the human condition, let's call it, that stuff is going to happen naturally. Anyways. All right. That's enough of my rant, you know. So let's see, where do we leave off? The Kabbalist is at heart a ritualist. He approaches the doorways in the manner of a ceremonial magician. Okay, I already talked about that. So before discussing Kabbalists amongst my readers with this ridiculously abbreviated outline of this vast system, I will now move on to its severely practical application so far as the astral plane is concerned. So pathworkings are normally undertaken in company, and at least one member of the group should have had Kabbalistic training. In other words, you don't want someone guiding you through a Kabbalistic pathworking that doesn't understand where he is in the four worlds, the path that he's on, the symbols that correspond to it. You want someone that knows what they're talking about a little bit, at least, at the very least, to do the pathworking, right, to guide you. So there's a good reason for this. Unless your trip is going to turn into an aimless wandering, someone has to read the signposts, and the only one who knows the symbol language is a Kabbalist. Let us suppose you wish to tread the 22nd path. A reference to the Kabbalistic book shows this path runs between the spheres of Malkuth and Yesod. Malkuth represents, among other things, the physical universe. Yesod is the all-embracing sphere of the astral plane. The proper exit from Malkuth must be via a temple incorporating the major symbols of the Sephiroth. Minimum needs for your experiment are a tarot deck, a small table, and a lighted candle. It is as well to open the proceedings with some form of ritual, like the banishing ritual of the pentagram, outlined in an earlier chapter. This is ideal. Switch out all other lights before lighting the candle. Group members should be seated comfortably around the table with the candle flame as a focus of attention. And this produces a mild hypnotic effect and makes concentration easier for those untrained to do it. The tarot card associated with the 22nd path is trump number 21, the universe. Pass it around beforehand and make sure everyone is familiar with how it looks. It might be as well to explain the details on the cards because they vary from pack to pack. And part of the operation requires description of the card and its importance that nothing should jar the concentration. With the candle lighted and members of the group sitting comfortably, the Kabbalist should take over as leader of the expedition, and his first job is to paint a vivid verbal picture of the Malkuth temple. So, do you guys, someone mentioned Chick Cicero's temple, right, earlier. So, in the book, A Garden of Pomegranates, there are pathworkings in the back of that book. And Chick Cicero has a temple that he takes I think it's Chick and Tabitha both, but they take everybody through these pathworkings in this book. I used to read them to one of my ex-girlfriends at night, and they loved it. So if you don't know why, like if you don't know the symbols or whatever, just get that book, A Garden of Pomegranates, okay? And in the bottom of the tree, he always brings you back to the temple and the angel that governs it, you know, like Sandalphon and all that. It's pretty cool. But think about it, though. He's right. Like, imagine if you were playing, I don't know, Dungeons and Dragons, and you said, oh, we need a dungeon master, and you brought in somebody that don't know anything about the Kabbalah, right? You brought in somebody that don't know shit about it. How fun is it going to be? Number one, what are you going to get from it? It's not going to be very even practically worth it. So anyways, as the guide talks in a soft but emphatic tone, the remaining travelers must attempt to build the picture in their minds. This again should be done as vividly as possible, with as much detail as possible, so that the impression of actually sitting in the temple is built up. You'll probably find visualization easier in the group context than alone. This is partially due to the stimulus of the spoken description and partially due to the darkened room. There is, too, the possibility of a telepathic undercurrent. The pictures held in individual minds seem to reinforce each other. It is vital that the temple is described in such a way that the description helps visualization. This rules out any question of a cool, clinical approach. The tone should be persuasive, the language full of image and color. At the outset, the temple must be strongly linked with the room in which you are sitting. So, here's an example. For the Malkuth temple, the description might run along these lines. Make yourselves comfortable and try to relax. There's nothing you need to worry about. We're about to embark on an experimental trip to the astral plane, and your reactions may vary. Some of you will have a vivid mental experience, and a few of you may even feel you have passed into a different physical dimension. This is an illusion, although it may seem very real, but don't worry if it happens. It simply means that your physical and psychic makeup allows you to lose touch temporarily with the physical plane. In a moment, I'm going to describe a temple, and I want you to follow this description and visualize the temple as clearly as you possibly can. I will speak slowly to allow you time for this. I guess we're going to do this. So stay relaxed and do the best you can, for there's plenty of time. And soon after we have built the temple in our minds, we will pass through a doorway onto the astral plane. When this happens, I would ask you all to stay together. And please remember to stay together as our journey continues. This is important. Now together we must begin to build our temple, and this is the temple of Malkuth, the Cabalistic Sephirah of the physical universe. We are already quite familiar with this plane of operation. We live and work with matter every day. And this room is a part of Malkuth, and this room that we're sitting in now will become our starting point. But first, we must change it slightly. We will do so by an active imagination. All of us must take part in this active imagination, for there is no ultimate reality outside the mind. And by visualizing the temple, as I describe it, we are agreeing what, for the moment, we will see. For the purposes of our trip, we are making it so. And so he's going to give you a little, this is kind of cool. So let's pretend we have a candle flame and we're all sitting around it. I don't know how many people are listening on the station, but let's pretend we're all sitting around a table looking at a candle flame. All right, so look towards the candle flame. And as you look, the room is changing. And slowly it becomes a temple, a holy place in contact with the inner planes. Already in your minds, you begin to see this change. The walls of the room are shifting, disappearing, and changing. In their place appears a colonnade of pillars, strong black marble pillars, flecked with gold and highly polished. Visualize them strongly. Hold the picture in your mind until you feel they are really there. And so they are. Those pillars have existence in your mind. And now the floor beneath your feet is changing. Please stay quite relaxed and visualize these things strongly. Beneath your feet, you now feel the temple floor. Now it is as if you were standing on some vast chessboard, for the floor beneath your feet has taken on a regular arrangement of squares, black squares alternating with the white and black in a chessboard pattern. This is the floor of the Temple of Malkuth, and we stand on it now, surrounded by the polished marble pillars. Shut your eyes now, if you find that easier, and continue to visualize strongly. The candle flame has left an after image, and this helps you see it clearly in your mind. Now the table which supports the candle has become an altar. The construction of the altar is a double cube, one set on the other. This double cube is the altar of Malkuth, in the three-dimensional universe of matter. Visualize this strongly, draped in black. Look now, with your mind's eye, into the candle flame. In it you can see a figure growing steadily until he towers above you, reaching almost the roof. This vast figure is Sandalphon, the archangel of earth and the guardian of the temple of Malkuth. He is dressed in robes of olive citron, russet, and black. The colors you might see on an apple in the autumn. These are the symbolic colors of Malkuth. Look beyond the figure and the altar to the east, and there you can see 3 doorways. Notice in particular the middle doorway. Draped over it is a curtain, and on the curtain is a representation of the card you saw before, the 21st tarot trump called the Universe. As you watch, the Archangel Sandalphon leaves the altar and moves towards the east, and now he indicates towards the doorway, and we approach closer as a group. Visualize strongly now, for we are approaching the doorway and nearing the first steps of your journey. On the card you saw, the outline of the card was given. I will now fill in the details as I do so, and please try to visualize each one strongly. The veil draped on the door shows a huge laurel wreath, oval in shape and intertwined with flowers, lilies, and roses. Outside the wreath, one at each corner, are the elemental representations: a man, an eagle, a lion, and a bull. Inside the wreath is a deep, dark liquid area, indigo, black in hue. Stare into this dark oval and watch carefully. And as you watch, a figure floats towards you, growing larger until it almost fills the laurel frame. Now you can see it as a pale, near-nude hermaphrodite, slim and graceful, standing within the laurel wreath. In one hand it holds a golden spiral, in the other a spiral of silver, and draped around it is a flowing scarf of bright blue. The figure signs to us, and we move towards the oval pool. All that remains at this stage is to establish a marching order, which should be maintained throughout the trip. As the party steps into the symbol, both Sandalphon and the hermaphrodite figures remain behind. After this, a trained Kabbalist will recognize the various symbols which arise on the trip. Then he uses as a guide to establish whether the party remains on the right path. If, for instance, he should find himself faced with an animal associated with some other path, he is immediately warned that something has gone wrong. There are also set symbols marking the center point and endings of the path. So as in all astral journeys, the return trip must retrace the outgoing path, and results of path workings properly conducted are usually very interesting. Gareth Knight reports a case of clairvoyance developed by this means. My own experience over a brief series of workings was that there appeared a sudden tendency to change in the lives of those taking part. This may of course be sheer coincidence, but it is sort of a coincidence the occultist expects. To him, it is evidence of the psychic parallelism Carl Jung called synchronicity. So far I have stressed the dangers of astral journeys. As a balance, I might conclude this chapter with the brief comment of a novice immediately after his first path working. "I feel marvelous," he said. That was a most therapeutic experience. So, and what are you asking here? Do you know anything about the jester balancing 3 worlds? No. But basically what he would do after he did that path working is he took that group, and he was just given an example, that, and this is just another magical, like I said, get the book Garden of Pomegranates and read the back. It's the same thing. So he built that temple in their minds. He set the Archangel Sandalphon over it. If I was guiding it, I would have definitely put more symbols in it that, mattered a little bit more. But it doesn't really matter. He did an awesome job. And then as they go on the path through the tree or wherever Sephiroth they visit or whatever path they visit, they'll have to retrace their steps back from the journey, and they'll end up back in that visualized temple that he made. Right. I know this sounds silly to some people, but yeah, it's funny how when you start doing inner workings like this, the outer world starts to change. Yeah, synchronistically, I guess. All right, so the next is Chapter 8, Oriental Doorways. So we've kind of talked about, so far, the astral realm in this book. We've talked about the tarot, how to use that as astral doorways. We've talked about the Tree of Life, how to use that as astral doorways. It's pretty interesting stuff. This looks like a international call. Who do we have on the line here?
Hey, Joe, it's Sooty from the planet of Australia.
Hey, what's up? You might be getting feedback. I apologize about that, but what's up?
I'm not getting any feedback. Hey, I had a thought earlier when you said how you had never been out of America, because I was listening to a show you did with Rich West last night. It was an old show, but I was just catching up on one. And you'd said in that you had found it hard to get out of like your immediate like sort of vicinity neighborhood. And I just thought it was interesting. Like there's an interesting correspondence between the fact that you haven't maybe traveled extensively on the physical plane to whether that like affects your belief system or your kind of mental constructs, or I don't know, it was just a thought.
No, it doesn't. What do you mean? Like, how does it affect my belief as far as like in God or religiously?
Well,
or
just in terms of, no, like in terms of, you know how like Robert Monroe says that your beliefs affect kind of where you can go, and that you have, that you kind of create these different planes that relate to kind of like your mental constructs, you know?
Okay,
and if
so
you haven't, you know, explored the physical plane extensively, I don't know. I don't know if, you know, if that affected maybe astrally.
It could be. Because I've been poor all my life, and I haven't really got to, like, just this last few years, I got to go visit a few states, right, in the United States, and lived in Florida, and I'd love to go. That's where my heart is. I want to go back. But maybe there's, what you're saying is there could be like an underlying unconscious belief that I'll never go there anyways, so therefore, why not see it? Is that what you mean?
Or just that it just, maybe. Just in terms of, because Rich West was talking about, I can't remember the term he used exactly, but just the, like, essentially how, you know, your beliefs kind of create these realms or you know, kind of like astral kind of realms for yourself. And obviously what you do in the physical world, you know, your physical experience creates beliefs and stuff like that. You know what I mean?
That is fascinating, actually.
I don't know. I just thought it was an interesting, like, correspondence there when you said that earlier.
No, that's fascinating, actually, because even when I traveled, I had this, what do you call it, like underlying anxiety because I'd lived around my family and my home for 38 years of my life.
Oh, okay.
So I really needed to trust the people or that I was going to be around for some reason, traveling, you know. And
because, like, I wonder if, like, say you went to Egypt, would you have like an OBE easily there where you could get, like, go, you know what I mean? Like, imagine if you tried to have OBEs in different parts of the world. Like, that would be really interesting to see how easy it would be for you to go outside the immediate vicinity that you know in the real world.
I want to go to Egypt so freaking bad, man. Like, I really, really do. I think it would be cool if I could. But I don't know. That's something to think about, really. Like, so you're saying if I went to Egypt and visited Egypt, then came back home, would it be easier for my astral body to go there? Because I actually have a belief about it now, or there's an imprint or something.
Well, yeah. But also as well, when you're in Egypt trying to have an OBE, like, you know, it's probably going to, I don't know, I feel like it might be a lot easier. It's just something about when you wrote that in the chat, it just, something just clicked in my mind. It just resonated, and I made this sort of connection. And I'm like, yeah, I wonder if that affects that at all. Because when you travel a lot and you go all around the world, it just is, it's natural to you, it's accessible, and you go through those sort of like fear. I had like massive anxiety the first time I traveled alone overseas, and I didn't know what it was. And it was like, because I don't have anxiety normally, but I even like went to the doctor and got like Xanax to have, because I thought, and it wasn't flying. I've been flying since I was a kid, like flying everywhere. So I was used to it. But when I was alone for the first time, there was this, I felt anxiety for the first time, and it was like really weird. But once you get over that, then it just becomes integrated in part of you, like integrated into your psyche. And so then, you know, that's not an issue anymore. You kind of find it easier to do things alone a lot more and stuff like that. But
what part of Australia are you from?
Astrally, what part of Australia? I'm on the Gold Coast in Queensland, but I was born in the UK, and when I was little, we traveled, like we used to go to America every holiday, and I've traveled all around Europe and that. But
so do you get out of body yourself?
Really accessible to you?
Like, can you get out of body? Have you been out of body yourself?
I nearly have. like I've been to the vibration stage, but I really I came across this whole thing relatively recently, and I came across it through a really weird experience that I wasn't actually looking for it. I had this like really bizarre kind of just one day, and this has happened to me a couple of times in my life. I was sitting like doing work for myself at home, and I had it I can't pinpoint a moment, but this awareness came over me, and it creeped up like over maybe like an hour or something, where I suddenly just realized that everything that I had known and everything around me was like a lie.
Oh man.
And it's so weird. Like I'm not on any medication. You know, I was just literally just during the day. And again, this has happened to me before. Similar kind of weird revelatory kind of awareness experiences have happened to me when they've just come upon me like spontaneously. And I started to get like a bit uneasy, and it's hard to describe this because it's sort of like it's almost like you trying to describe a different frequency where your rational mind isn't there anymore in a way, like your logical, normal like my personality wasn't there anymore. And it's like, imagine you don't have a personality. It's
that
really hard
sounds like
for
a
you to
DMT
do.
trip
You know what I mean?
almost. Yeah, because you disassociate. I know what that feels like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like there was no me there anymore. And I was aware of the fact that the me that I knew was just a lie. It was just all lies. The relationships that I had with other people, that was all just make believe. It was all lies. And it was a very cold, like someone throwing cold water in your face or something. It was a very cold, harsh awareness, like just being suddenly in the bright of day.
Oh, that's
it wasn't
trippy,
like,
though.
you know, oh, this is beautiful. I'm at one with everything. I understand everything. It was like, you know, having the rug pulled out from underneath you. And I kind of like got uncomfortable with this. It wasn't freaking out or anything. It was just like I was aware of it. It was like, you know, someone just tells you, hey, you know, that thing you've been believing in, or like someone tells you, hey, you know, your partner's cheated on you. That cold reality hits you in the face. It was like that. And it was just kind of like, whoa. I got a bit unnerved
that cold
about
reality
that.
only hits you if you have a heart and soul, you know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But you know, like suddenly just realize, like getting the sense that me, this idea I had of me, this is all bullshit. This is all a lie. And I was seeing a guy at the time, and I thought, I'm going to go like see him and just like see if I can talk to someone about this. And I was driving through traffic, and I was aware of the people around me, and I felt kind of sad because I'm like, they don't know that this is all just a lie. Everything, all our construct is like everything we're constructing in our mind is a lie. Went to see my boyfriend, started like trying to talk to him and tell him this, and I didn't want to speak to him because when my voice came out of my mouth, it felt like a lie. Just the sound of my own voice trying to communicate, it felt inauthentic. It felt just like, and fake. I didn't want to do it. And I could sense his energy, like needing things from me. You know what I mean? Like when you're in a relationship with someone, you're probably not aware of it all the time, but how like he wanted love from me, and that just kind of sort of repelled me as well. And he wasn't like a super needy person. I just was really aware of the energy of that as well. And so
that
this
repelled
was all,
you
like,
that he needed your love? Holy shit. Okay.
Yeah, just like I could just sense that. And, you know, you probably get that from a pet or anything, but it was like, do you know what I mean? It wasn't like his unhealthiness. He was an unhealthy person, but in other ways. But it was just even like I was aware of the energetic exchanges and how that is almost like inauthentic and like it just was off-putting to me. Do you know what I mean? Like normally in my normal mind, it's great to love. I love to love. Everyone loves to be loved. But when I was aware of how everything was just a lie, that just felt like pointless to me as well. And
well, you might have been feeling his neediness too, you know, like because...
probably there was a bit of that in there.
Yeah, because love is a two-way street. So you should, if you're feeling love, you should be feeling someone's ability to give too, not just want or take, you know, like that kind of that's weird though most people that would start feeling that stuff would literally, I know people that I've talked to that had mental breakdowns from this stuff, you know, like they lost, I guess, their sense of I don't know, a groundedness. You don't sound like that though. You sound like you woke up and it was all good though.
Well, this is leading to this is what led me to the whole OB thing. So now you have the background of how this sort of like came upon me. And yes, like it could be disassociation or whatever. I didn't do anything to provoke it, literally just doing what I do every day. Like I'm a copywriter. So I was sitting down writing, doing my thing, whatever. And it just came upon me. And so anyway, I came back home. This is all very kind of disconcerting to me. Anyway, I got home to it. This is the fucking weirdest thing, right? I look in the mirror and my face had completely swollen up to, like from Lord of the Rings, the orcs, like what they look like. And they've got like all that swelling on their nose. And dude, I fucking looked like my face was completely swollen up. And I was like, I didn't freak out. I was not freaking out about any of this because I was also like, I guess maybe disassociated in the fact of like just almost observing it all. You know what I mean? Taking it all in and observing it all. And again, my boyfriend came over like later on that night. He saw my face like swollen up and everything. He's like, you need to go to the hospital. But like, it wasn't my imagination or anything. My
what
face
the hell
up.
happened, man?
Yeah, well, get this, right? So I was, at that time, I was really, and I still believe this, that your mental state creates, disease or improvement or whatever in your physical body. And I looked up Louise L. Hay, and your face is like the image that you present to the world, and swelling is like clogged thinking, and also like problematic like thoughts. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, I think that was literally a physical representation of my psyche being kind of blocked, opened up to this reality type thing, and how problematic that was for my personality, which is normally stuck in its way of thinking and its way of perceiving the world.
Well, let me ask you a question.
The swelling went down
before you go on so did that experience make you think that the mystery is a good thing and it keeps us healthy in a body, or that it's a bad thing?
It was very neutral. And it kind of, it felt like nothingness. And not nothingness in, the beauty of the void and we're all the source of all creation. It wasn't like that. It was just like nothing.
Whoa.
Like, yeah, just like very, like the neutralness of nothingness.
Like you're just a video camera taking in everything around you and that's it. Wow.
Yeah.
So you had an out-of-body experience after that?
Well, what happened was, so I came home, right? And, again, I started looking online trying to make sense of what was going on. And this is the first time I'd ever heard about OBEs. I happened upon this website, which I can't find anymore because I want to go back to this process that got me the closest. And I just literally read it, lay down on my bed, and I just read this, whatever it told me to do, the regular stuff, I guess it was. And I started feeling the vibrations, and then that kind of shook me out of it. And it was the first time I'd ever heard about OBEs. This is probably about maybe, 3 years now or something. First time I'd ever come across it, didn't know that it existed. And that kind of just, I guess I was in a bit of a different, more superficial point of my life then, you know what I mean? And I didn't like go into it deeply, but it's come back more into my life now and stuff. And
do you feel different now? Did it permanently change you?
Sorry?
Did it permanently change you?
Those experiences have, in a way, because like your own personal experience of stuff, of like truth like that. And, I knew that was kind of like the base level of our reality. And everything else we layer on top is just our fantasy, our fairy tales, our mind. Our mind is layering all that on top of the base level reality, which is nothing. And if you think about it in a way, that's fine. Better to have a neutral palette to work from than to have something already with bias, ideas, whatever. But, I've been like a truth seeker my whole life. Since I was like 15, I wanted to know what is going on here. What is the nature of reality? What's going on? Like, is someone playing a trick on me? How do I get control of it? If
is
so,
this some kind of experiment? Am I just a puppet in someone's experiment? Do I die? When I die, am I just going to turn into worm food? Or like what?
Yeah, just wanted to know, and that's never, even though like I've been through seasons in my life or whatever, that undercurrent has always been there, and those things definitely affected me, and I didn't have anyone to talk to about it. No one understood me. Even now, I mean, most people don't, and I don't expect people to understand either, because it's no one's job to understand me. You know what I mean? No one's
I understand.
To understand me, and
I do understand.
I can tell you get it. Like you can approach that level, but
the only thing that concerns me,
what you experience.
The only thing that concerns me here is when you stepped into this level of consciousness. I don't know if it was your boyfriend's need of love or that love thing just kind of isn't real. It's not real, right? Like.
No, it wasn't that. No, love is real. It wasn't that. It was just more. I was aware, even in traffic. I was aware of the energy around me a lot more, and the lackness of everybody. Everybody's like the energy on an energetic level. How everyone is lacking, feels like they're lacking something.
Yeah.
So with him, it was like he obviously was feeling like he was lacking something, and so there was this need of love from me. I wasn't mentally deconstructing this all at the time. I'm trying to kind of deconstruct it in hindsight and to explain it, but I just could sense this like need from him. And again, in the cold hard light of day and the truth of nothingness, that was just sort of like, it felt like off-putting to me and pointless.
Well, I get that because you can feel a void. You can feel the void in somebody. And when you feel a void in somebody that can't be filled, your consciousness realized, I'm going to become this permanent energetic fixture upon this person's void. Which is...
But everybody is. But here's the thing, dude. Like when I'm driving through traffic, I could sense that everybody was like that. Everybody. Yeah. Because everybody was under this misconception of their own ideas, their own little myths and fairy tales, everything that you've constructed from the day you were born, your idea of you, it's all just a construct. It's all a lie. Yeah. It's not real. You know what I mean? It's not real. So it's like... everybody is lacking something because they've constructed an identity that is, until you construct one that isn't lacking, I guess.
Well, think about it. Like, you know what? That never went away from me. Like, I'm not saying that I don't have still some resemblance of what you're talking about in my life, but that went away from me the moment I got into out-of-body stuff and magic. It wasn't the psychedelics that did it. It was practicing ceremonial magic and the out-of-body experience, and not concerning about what am I going to manifest or what am I going to get out of this thing. It wasn't about that. It was about answering the questions. And then when the synchronicity started to happen, I kind of get what you're talking about, because I started realizing everything is just a pivot point. There is no lack. This void is really an illusion. You're creating this void, Like you could really go any direction you want to go.
Yeah, and that's the thing that ultimately kind of, it doesn't stop me seeking, but in terms of seeking the truth, like I've stopped looking for that, because over time what I've realized is, or what my personal experience, what I've sort of realized is that everything is real if you say it is. So if you think that there's a truth, there is no truth, because your truth is the right truth. My truth is, so it's like there has to be that again, like that blank slate for everybody to create on. There is no ultimate truth.
You believe
because
that?
Everybody is creating in their own. Yeah, I really do.
What about, like, I don't believe in subjectivity. Can be a whole other thing. Like, there's perceptional truth for sure, but if I cut a human body, it bleeds. That's a truth. There's nothing that's going to stop that.
But I think that's a truth that through consensus reality that we've created. So yeah, there are like truths that, and that's, again, I think that this is demonstrated in out-of-body experiences, is that when enough people, I mean, think how many people have read Robert Monroe's work. And I do actually have another example, like a current example of this is a guy called Darius J. Wright. He's an American and now lives in Australia. And he sort of talks about his experiences, and now everybody that goes through his system says it's exactly like Darius explained. Again, this has been talked about before. This isn't a new idea. egregores and stuff like that, people create this consensus reality, and our physical reality is very much like the Eiffel Tower is there because we all say it's there, and you know what I mean? And then again, when people believe that they can break certain physical barriers, one person does it, then more people do it. The consensus changes. So yeah, of course there are like physical truths, but in terms of like an ultimate truth of what happens when we die or whatever, my feeling is that we're just the one energy that has created this big kind of simulation or whatever, created, not to say that this isn't a game within a game.
I hear what you're saying.
The astral plane and everything, like the astral plane and everything, that could just be like, a sub-matrix within another matrix type thing. But I think that we're literally just God that's playing a game with itself. How you love playing your computer game and going and losing yourself in it.
Oh, yeah.
We do that here. And I just realized that, hey, you know what, I'm tired of losing myself in this thing of truth seeking, because I kind of realized that I personally, for me, my realization was that was what was going on.
Yeah, sure.
And my personality type is the kind to be really persistent and like a dog with a bone. And it's like, I almost kind of figured the personality, if you like, the construct of me, I kind of figured that out, and I'm like, that is what you would do.
I'll say this,
I'm done
though.
with that.
Like, I get that you've had this enlightenment thing. I get it. And I've heard this before, okay? But what I would say to this is, if you really believe that, then, and you know it to be true, then look at it as a responsibility. Because I've met people that have had this kind of vibrational enlightenment, and then they just go around thinking that they can do whatever to whoever. And if they hurt whoever or whatever, then that's just their perception and their reality. And that is how psychopathy starts.
Because it's all you. It's all you. So imagine, like, I'm you talking to myself. We're all just I am this one energy. So, like, you can't go doing that.
Yeah, for
You're
sure.
just doing it to yourself. Do you know what I mean?
Mm.
Yeah,
I get
like
what you're
fashion, saying. When you see terrible things in the world, when you are a very empathetic person, it's heartbreaking, and like, here's the thing though, I don't live from that viewpoint. I've had the experience of it, and I can go back to it. It's like being in love. You know what that felt like, and if you recall it, you can go back there. So I can go back and recall it, but it isn't my normal modus operandi. I'm not walking around as an enlightened being, but I have that. I have that touchstone to be able to go back and remind myself,
dude,
in difficult times or whatever,
think about it like this. Think about it like this too. I get what you're saying, but think about it like this too. Like, social media, okay? We've created, if this is a construct of observance and egregoric creation, right? Social media, like, we've created an environment that is causing more suffering and misery. Like, when I get on social media, all I see are people complaining about their pain and their hurt, and I'm worth this and this and that. And it's like, everybody, like, your consciousness is taking in all this stuff. So eventually everybody starts to feel, instead of this oneness, they start to feel isolated, categorized, and categorically alone on every level. All because they don't understand how consciousness works.
I don't go on social media though, dude. That's the thing. I don't go on
I'm about to jump off of it myself.
I'm not adding to it, so there, and you don't add to it, and that's how we don't create it anymore.
Yeah, I hear you. Well, I appreciate your call. Very good points. Very, very good
cool,
points.
man. So anyway, that sort of rambled on a bit, but Anyway, love the show, and good to chat with you, mate.
Yeah, you too. Thanks for calling in.
Okay, see ya.
I know someone else tried to call too, but I'm sorry I missed it. You can call back if you want. But I mean, once you get to that level of vibration where you see all this like oneness and how we're creating everything, then you should look at life as an adventure. Like, I made the mistake of getting to a point where, let's look at everything as an adventure, and there's no lack of anything. And no matter what situation that we're in, we can change it. And that's a fact. We can change it. But I don't care how enlightened you think you are. And you probably are, all of us, that, on some level. If you put yourself in an environment where other creators are in human bodies and they're just negative and fearful and almost psychotic sometimes, it's going to affect you. Cause and effect still works on that level, no matter how enlightened you are. So I'm probably, and to her point before that, like I'm probably the only reason why I'm on social media is because if I wasn't on social media, how the hell would anybody even listen to this broadcast? You know, they wouldn't. 236 area code, you're on the air. Who are we speaking with?
Hey, it's Danny. I'm from Vancouver, British Columbia.
Oh,
man,
Canadian. What's up, brother?
Man. Yeah. I'm a void walker too, so I've been listening to your stuff for a while, but I finally got a chance to actually listen to one of your lives, so it's pretty excited.
What's on your mind? Thanks for calling, by the way. I would do just phone calls the whole show if I could, but most people don't call in, so you know. Thanks for calling.
I mean, hey, that's good, man. At least you're trying. You know? Someone's out there trying. You know, just to say, like, that's why you use social media, and I get it. Like, there's someone out there in the void going to pick it up, and then they're going to be like, "Oh man, that's pretty lit," and they're going to take it in. So I say, don't give up.
I can't deal with it though, dude. Like I've gotten so, I don't know what it is, and I purposefully like block and close stuff, right? And I'm like, I'm hoping the algorithm will change so I can start seeing cat videos again and all of the cool stuff that it entertained me. But it's full of memes of people's pain and suffering and like, dude, I've been through some of the worst shit in my life when it comes to pain, physical and emotional, and treachery and betrayals and lying, deceiving fuckbags and you name it. But I don't see the benefit in just constantly expressing woes on social media. I think it hurts us more, you know.
Oh, I totally agree. Which is why I don't do it. But I understand why there is so much pain in the reality right now.
Yeah,
and why everybody's just going out there. Have you ever heard of reality transurfing?
Oh yeah, one of my good friends is a reality transurfing coach. I know all about it.
I think one of the coolest methods on there is like asking your inner guardian to like be awake while you're like doing anything, but like really just like consciously asking it, like going inward. So like I think it's like I consider like your Tiferet center. And saying, like, inner guardian, help me remain impeccable. Like, you're consciously asking yourself to do that while you're on social media. So it can, like, act as a filter while you're, like, trying to scroll through it. Because, I'm telling you, like, after I picked up on that, I was like, I'm going to start using that just to see if I need to scroll through social media because I don't do it too often. But I use it as like I need to like promote my stuff, you know, and talk to people. And,
yeah, exactly.
'cause I do consultations like with tarot and stuff, and I kind of need to use it because everyone's using it, right? So.
Well, think about this too, real quick. You're on. Let's say you have two levels of consciousness that we know of, that we're aware of. You have your consciousness. Right. That's like you could look at your consciousness as what you're aiming at down the barrel of a gun. Okay. That's your consciousness. So you're constantly aiming and focused on something all the time, whether it's all over the place or still, doesn't matter. And then you have the unconscious, which is your peripheral. It's taking in everything, right? So imagine while you're clicking through on social media, even when you're like flipping through stuff you don't want to watch, you're consciously doing that. Your unconscious is taking in all of that shit, all of it.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. So it's like it's kind of like something you have to do, like, but you have to also like just like I have to put up a filter. Like it's a constant conscious thing where I have to put up that filter, which is honestly tiring. Which just makes me want to just like move out to the boonies and just not give a fuck. Put up a tarot sign and just whoever drives by can come by and that's it. Like I don't care about like promoting myself anymore. Like I don't even know.
That's
like,
that's one of the reasons why I came back to the shack, bro. Like I want to go live in the world and experience all the great stuff that life has to offer because I know love, life, and light is beautiful. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff you can experience, but the moment you get people involved, it starts getting stupid, you know? It just does, right? For some reason. I don't know why.
Yeah.
So.
I don't. I think you remember what you said in the book when you said like pain is kind of also like it is an initiatory thing. Like there's like this like I don't know if it's a masochistic human thing where it's like this where it is like a pathway to God, and like I guess maybe this is kind of one of these steps that we're going through as a collective unconsciously. And I've been noticing like we're kind of in a flood, like psychologically, and like the occult, for me, what it has provided is kind of like an arc. Like I kind of look at the tree of life when we're building, like getting through the steps and like just like trying to like understand these emanations and like open these centers within us, that we're kind of almost building an arc. So we don't need to like cling on to things to claim this as our truth, like floating by like couches and stuff. But we can say like we can swim we can swim in through it instead. That's what I've been noticing. So it's kind of like something where like I can start almost like, and I'm not looking at it like I'm enjoying it, but I can witness it fully.
No,
That's
dude, you're using it.
Like
You're using it as a tool to grow your consciousness. Look, when you study the occult, you start learning, or any of this stuff, you start learning that the collective consciousness, the collective unconscious, the astral realm, the spirit world, whatever the hell you want to call it, is not only imprinting upon this earth egregorically based on all of our focus and what we do, but it's so chaotic. So wouldn't it be awesome if you could learn just the 3 steps of the Western mysteries, take that glyph of that tree and go, I can develop myself any way I want. I can use any symbol I want. I can travel consciously in a controlled way that I want. I can understand nature on a deeper level. It helps me to understand hermetics. Is the tree of life ultimate reality, or is it even true? Who gives a shit? It works.
Yeah, who gives a shit? It's just a method, right? It's just it's just a model. Like there's I think like the chaos. I think the chaos magicians were onto something when they're like, I'm gonna try on this hat for now and see how it goes, and then if it doesn't really work out for me, then I could just move on to another. Like I'm not saying I'm not really a chaos magician. Like I practice Golden Dawn magic, which is why I like listening to your show, because you do talk about that stuff. But I also can like see.
Oh, you mean Aleister Crowley? You know? You like Aleister Crowley magic? Is that what it is? Yeah, that's what people usually say when I talk about them.
Yeah. No, well, he was a madman, but he was like a genius too at the same time. So it's like, I just don't throw out the baby with the bathwater with that. Like I'm like, okay, what is it that he's saying here that can actually benefit me or not? But.
Same thing with Terrence Howard. I got friends that are like, that guy's a psycho. He beat women and he did this and he doesn't like using toilet paper and he doesn't make a lot. I said, yeah, but, we didn't follow Tesla and all these other people around with cameras, And Terrence Howard is unlocking a 3-dimensional tree of life to show people, hey, you remember when we were talking about the electric universe and toroidal fields and all this other stuff? And the fact that you guys know that gravity and dark matter and all this stuff is a theory, he's not only telling people, put it to a test, but even if he was locked up for smacking a woman around, which I think I don't condone it at all. I think that's a cowardly thing, but maybe we don't know his story. But the information, the information that he's talking about, he's not saying this is reality, believe me. He's saying this is reality, put it to the test. That's what he's telling people. Put it to the test if you don't think it's real. Why don't they do it?
Exactly. Right. Yeah. Do you know that Liam Thomas has a YouTube channel now?
Yeah, I followed him, but he subscribed to my channel and then unsubscribed for some reason. Probably because I was teaching something that he didn't agree with or whatever. Yeah. But I will say...
it doesn't matter. I like his stuff.
I will say that Liam Thomas, Christopher, is the biggest breath of fresh air when it comes to understanding traditional, just the whole nature of what I've been trying to talk about. Like, he does it so articulate and so well. Then no wonder he wrote a book on magic, Like,
Yeah,
I'm glad he did.
I'm just surprised it took him so long to, like, come out of the closet and say, like, okay, I'm going to talk and be public about it, But,
he probably got tired of listening to his students teach people like I am, It's like, no, you're telling people about the lesser banishing ritual, the pentagram, and you're not describing like, if you guys do what you're talking about, go subscribe to Liam Thomas Christopher's YouTube channel. And not only does he explain he doesn't really go into, well, this is how you do it, and you draw the symbols. He's telling you everything that it does and creates and why it does what it does and all this stuff, right? And what to consider, You should definitely go subscribe to his channel. If you're not, you should.
Especially if you're doing going down magic. Like, if you're doing that stuff, then, at least. But he also is bringing in, like, an Eastern perspective into it as well. Like, because I think most of Golden Dawn magic, I think it's kind of got a root in tantric magic, obviously because it got the tot buzz, right? So
it does.
I think, like, a lot of the methods,
when you do the 3 grades of the mysteries, people don't understand. Magic is just theurgy. Magic is just the first operation of the mysteries under the moon. So you're deprogramming yourself, but reprogramming your mind with these different egregores. And not only does it unlock that, but it also unlocks your ability to understand the fundamentals of how all this stuff is working from the astral to the physical, or vice versa. And then once you get past the magic stage, then you get into the solar mysteries, which is, you can still do magic if you want, but you don't have to. You've become an adept, and you're basically an alchemist at this point, right? And they learn they do a lot of work in the astral. They learn more advanced stuff. They even, the old traditional order, you weren't allowed to even touch things like grimoires or demons or anything until you passed the stage of magician. You had to become an adept. And they also...
At least.
And they also teach the masculine and feminine and tantra too.
It's all out there, right? Like, it's just like, so people are, and I do find it really odd that like some of, like, the most darkest grimoires are kind of out there in public, like, and, like, talked about the most, especially in the forums, talking about magic and stuff. Yeah. It's like the first thing people talk about. It's like, there's not even, like, just the simple things, Like, I do find it concerning, just a little bit. But I'm not trying to fearmonger. I just, like, why is this?
Well, think about it, bro. Think about it. Most people, why do we watch horror movies more? Why do we watch psychological thrillers more and stuff? Because people have, most people have a natural condition to wonder just how morbid are things. And if you think about... like the magicians of old that were doing grimoires for certain things, or that they were writing certain spells so that someone would choke on something. You have to think about that. Right. Like, what kind of psychopath would do that? Think about that.
Yeah.
Like, I really believe if I do a spell, this person's going to die of a sickness or choke on something. And not because I'm defending myself or my family, but because I want power and I just don't like that person. That, my friend, is a psychopath.
Right.
Yeah. I'm just saying it is. Man. Why? Are you practicing dark magic, brother? You better not be. I'll come get you, dude.
Yeah. Yeah, some of, like, the dark, like, I think because my family has a, like, very heavy karmic, like, we have a lot of things to deal with in my family. And I know that because me and my sister are both, like, healers and stuff.
Really?
We dealt with a lot of stuff growing up. And my first experiences with OB were very dark. Like, I had sleep paralysis starting, like, when I was 7. And it kind of slowed down during my teen years for some reason, maybe because I was just more focused on girls. But then it picked up back in my 20s. And then eventually, I don't know, like, something happened where, like, my life was falling apart, and I asked for, like, a solution. I'm like, I never do this. Like, I surrender. And then I tried this meditation
retreat. You supplicated to the universe. Yeah.
Yeah, basically. And then my sister's like, hey, why don't you try this thing called Vipassana? It's like a meditation retreat. You just go for 10 days. You don't talk for, like, 10 days, and you just sit in a temple with, like, a group of other people. And they're not trying to force anything down your throat. it's there for you to like sit down and meditate. And after that 10 days, my first time ever having like an OBE where I had a say in it, where I wasn't completely paralyzed and being like, you know, tormented pretty much. I had a dream where like the door, I was in my new place. I just moved to Vancouver, and the door just like creaked open. And I was wide awake. I thought I was wide awake in my dream. And then this shadow being starts coming over me, like it's like trying to molest me or some shit like that. But
Been
it's
there
not.
before.
It's just like trying to, yeah, it's just trying to hover over me. But then suddenly, because I didn't feel paralyzed. I was like, be quiet, be still, wait for it to come by, come up to you, like surprise it. Because I'm like, I'm gonna fuck this guy up. Who's this fucker trying to attack me right now? Because I thought I was, you know, I thought I was awake. And I put this guy in a headlock, and I just tried to squeeze. I squeezed like everything out of it, and I just like disappeared. And like that was my first time ever, ever having a say in my like sleep paralysis tormenting thing. And like it was after the Passion retreat, and then later on, I fully forgot about that, and then it started happening again. And I asked like, okay, what do I do? And then Golden Dawn fell in my lap. And then I just started, like, taking this stuff seriously, and it's been, like, 5 years now. And, like, yeah, man. Then I came across your channel, like, probably, like, a few years ago. And it kind of, like, really, like, helped me out with this because, you know, some people just say, oh, it's just an extension of you. But I think some of the stuff is external, and I don't have proof for that yet. Like, I don't think it's just me. I think there's, you know.
Yeah, Liam Thomas, Christopher talks about that too, because people will say, and I've heard magicians say this too, well, demons are not they're just a part of you. Okay, well, true, but you don't know how big you are. Like the previous caller,
exactly.
you
Exactly.
are a individual unit inside of a massive oneness with the universe. On this earth you are.
Yeah.
So your personality, and the more you identify with, let's say, what'd you say your name was? Danny? Right? Is that your name?
Yeah, Danny.
The more you identify with Danny, the more finite you become, and therefore there's tons of external things relatively, right?
Yeah.
And some of them can be demons, and they can mess with you, dude. You know? Like, when I say demons, understand that we created those sumbitches over time. Thousands and millions of people that believed in demons. And philosophers understand this, mentally people all understand it. We created this egregore, these beings, these archetypes, all these things, and they became real in the astral realm, and now they're affecting us. You see? Like, we did that.
Yeah, that makes sense, man. I totally agree with that. Like, and I don't want to sound like a yes man, but like, I've been coming to those same conclusions myself.
But when you wrestle that demon, you're wrestling like a creation that's come against you in a sense. It's just doing its job to torment you, you know. But the moment you step into your power or that oneness with everything and realize the illusion is the moment you can put it in the headlock and whoop its ass, you know.
Pretty much. And now it's different. Like, I don't even need to, like, get in, because I grew up doing martial arts. I don't need to use martial arts now. It's more like the Golden Dawn symbolism that I've been practicing every day over and over again. It almost, like, I don't even need to ask for it to happen in the astral. It's, like, 20 times powerful. I feel like, and I don't have any sleep like, what is it called? Sleep paralysis anymore. Yeah. But when I did have, like, throughout the initiations, like, I had a say, but I also felt like I also was surrendering to it. Like, the LVX formula, I felt like it going through my body and then shining outwards.
Oh, right.
But, like,
that's
in a
awesome.
totally different way. Like, I didn't need to do, like, the formations, you know what I mean? Like, it was, like, flowing through me outwards towards them, you know what I mean? And it was, like, dissipating. Like, I was making peace with them in a sense. It's different now, but, like, now I've had my first real out-of-body experience, but then it always feels like there's another layer. Like, there's something else that I need to overcome in reality. But it has changed. My life has changed. I used to be a fucking alcoholic, blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? But
you let go of a lot of fear and pain, though, because of, like, it sounds to me like your sense of wonder has come back. That childlike energy of that sense of wonder instead of this adult, decrepit, I'm afraid of everything, you know, is starting to come back to you.
Pretty much. Even though I do still have my down moments. Like, I have depression, you know what I mean? I got those. I still have those things in my life that come back in waves, but it's like I'm dealing with it in a more mature way, I guess you could say. But, you know, I don't know. And I guess when you're talking about tools, this is what we're talking about tonight, right? So, like, I've noticed that the tools that, like Golden Dawn has helped with that kind of stuff. So, yeah, just wanted to bring it up.
Yeah, man. Is that what was on your mind? That's why you wanted to call in? Are you in
that's why I wanted to call in, yeah.
Are you in the YouTube chat?
I am. I'm the guy that said OB Alva the consultant.
Gotcha. I got to start, once this thing gets bigger, I got to start making some of you people moderators, you know, because you never know who's going to jump in here. But, like, that's a pretty cool thing, man, like, because it's like when your perception changes. First you felt the vibrations and it freaked you out. It was fear. Now if you feel vibrations, at least when I do, I get excited. I'm like, oh, hell, they're about to come out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. Thanks for your call, brother. Great call.
No problem, man. This was a great call, man. Thanks, man. I definitely would love to talk again, man.
Yeah, call back in anytime.
Yeah, man. Have a good one, man.
All right, so... All right. I wish more of you would call in. I love talking to you. Like all of you are so cool, man. Like you get what I'm saying. So, and I'm definitely not doing this channel to like validate my beliefs or any of that stuff. I think it's just a matter of vibration. You vibrate something and it vibrates with you, you know? But anyways, we have to get out of here cause we're over 2 hours. But so the next chapter in this book is called Oriental Doorways. And if you want to get this book, I'll leave a link to it, but it's called Astral Doorways by J.H. Brennan. And so basically it's all of the esoteric techniques that he knows of to, I guess, explore the astral realm. The Tatua cards being one of them, right? And this is one of my favorite scrying tools. Like if you need a tool to teach you how to start scrying before you jump into tarot and crystals and Kabbalah, and you really start to like explore consciously and begin to understand it, this is what you need to start out with, in my opinion, if you're into this stuff. You can go to thefringe.fm/shop, grab a deck. They're print to order, so it takes a few weeks to get to you. But also make sure you let me know that you got them too, because I'm going to make a special group probably in the Patreon for us so we can start exploring stuff consciously, tap into our childlike energy, our magical eye, and start figuring some of this stuff out. Have fun in the astral. Sweet dreams, guys. I will talk to you guys tomorrow night. And, yeah, I'm always forgetting something. I got to start prepping for shows. One of these days I will, but not tonight. Good night, y'all. Sweet dreams. Oh, make sure you, support the Fringe FM if you can, please. We need it. It's the end of the month. Good night, guys.